Welcome, everybody, to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Steve Kiyama, and I am the franchise owner for the Action Coach franchise in Fairfax, Virginia. And I'm your host today of the Business Spotlight podcast. And today I have the pleasure to introduce Dr. Mark Noar, founder, lead inventor, and chief operating officer at EndoSure Inc., as my guest. And today we're going to talk about Mark's business, his journey into business ownership, challenges, best practices, and share a peek into what it's really like to build and operate a business. And so if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when shows like this drop. So Mark, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Please give us a little bit of background about who you are and a little bit about your business.
Sure. So let's see. I am a physician, began as a physician, but I've always been very business-minded, biomedical engineering, also in this. Before I became an actual uh, physician in gastroenterology, which is what I did for most of my career, I was in tropical medicine, ran a number of vaccine programs around the world and other public health initiatives, um, and then became a gastroenterologist. Did that for about 35 years. So that's gastroenterology, and then also therapeutic biliary and pancreatic endoscopy, which is non-surgical type of surgery. Invented a number of things all along. I've invented a number of devices that have been used throughout the field, one of them being electrogastrography, the other things like a pre-curved papillotome to prevent complications in doing these surgeries, just a bunch of things. Another, I think, notable that maybe many of your viewers may see is they may see simulators in the field of medicine and surgery. Those are all of my early inventions from the late 1980s, early 90s.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Uh, so um, that's how that's how I began. I've always had an interest in gynecology, mostly because as a gastroenterologist, you see young females with a lot of abdominal pain that you find no reason for, and you know immediately it's a GYN problem. And so most of the time that's endometriosis. One of my inventions, the electrogastrogram, is one where I was approached by a fellow gastroenterologist colleague who said he was seeing some unusual contractile patterns in women with endometriosis. We
Mm,
switched the invention over so that we could read those patterns non-invasively, and then gave birth to the field of electroviscerography, which is reading these abnormal energy patterns coming off of
mm.
the action of hollow organs in the abdomen and pelvis, which allows a near 100% accurate diagnosis of endometriosis. And then that
Oh,
leads us to the current company.
yeah.
Along the way, we founded the 3CPM company, standing for 3 cycles per minute, which is the normal contractile rate of the stomach. And that
Okay.
was the original EGG device or electrogastrogram. I still serve as the chairman and CEO of that company there, as well as
Got it. Got it.
as the inventor. So that was the journey, and this is where we are now, promoting the current company out to get our technology out to the women of the world.
Sounds like curiosity has been a big part of your path.
Yeah, I mean, I fortunately had a father who taught me never turn down the opportunity to learn something new or
Ah,
develop a skill or do something new.
yeah.
Always maintain that curiosity. You can always abandon it um,
That's easy.
without any regret, but you're going to pick up a lot of skills along the way. So, but the only thing I refuse to do any longer is plumbing, only because I don't want the responsibility for the leak. But I can
Good way to put it.
otherwise, otherwise I can pretty much do just about everything else. And that's what I've always done. That's what my dad did. That's what he taught me. And so we are we are what? Our roots. We are our roots.
Yeah. Good, good, good. Let's give the listeners some context here. How's your business structured? Solo owner, business partners, outside investors. How are you set up?
We created EndoSure as a licensing and sales organization off of the 3CPM corporation. It is a C corporation.
Hmm.
So as such, we have founders, we have a board.
Hmm.
Um, So a standard business structure out of Delaware. So we're
Okay.
in the state of Delaware. I have three founders. And then we're starting to not achieve, but acquire some very welcome investors.
Oh, good.
Who now, of course, have um, part ownership to the degree that their investment grants them. And of course, for our employees, I've always believed in being very generous for
Hmm.
employees. And so we make sure that there's a stock plan for the employees also.
Oh, good.
Is
Okay.
reserve options. That's one of the most important things. Reserve a nice sized option pool because you're going to be rewarding people
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah. 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 Good. So cash management's a big piece of that.
Yep.
Yeah. Good. Good. So any given company, there's a whole bunch of roles that people have to play, ranging anywhere from marketing, selling, product invention, product production and sales, or shipping, administrative, bookkeeping, financial, HR. Where are the roles you play in this?
Unfortunately, I wore every one of those hats at various times in my life. And I would say, and here's a wonderful piece of advice to everybody who's getting started. It's okay to wear a lot of hats in the beginning.
Hmm. Hmm.
Recognize your limitations so you don't end up crippling your business or
Hmm.
harming. And as quickly as you can, bring in people who will do that work for you and report to you rather than you're taking on those responsibilities. And
Mm.
there can be some real hard knock lessons there if you don't
Mm.
pay attention to that piece of advice, which I myself ignored until recently. Imagine recently, only recently.
What did you learn? Sounds like there were some learnings in that process.
There's this, as I like to describe, there's this field called regulatory. So
Mm, details.
in the medical device, I mean, even before then, right? I mean, I was responsible for starting the entire outpatient surgery center movement in the
Hmm.
country. I had laws changed to allow people to have their own surgery centers, right? So that's your first introduction to regulation. So you've got
Hmm.
all sorts of regulation when you have an outpatient surgery center, when you have a
Hmm.
medical practice. They're not very heinous, but when you get into being a medical device developer, producer, manufacturer, the regulatory will eat you alive. And
Hmm.
it's fairly easy to manage, but as I like to say, um, the field has outgrown me. And so this was a very hard lesson to learn because as things evolve, if you don't have the ability to recognize your own hubris is
Yeah.
getting in the way, which
Yeah.
is exactly what happened, is that I began to continue to guide things feeling that I was correct,
Yeah.
but regulations had changed out from under me at such a pace that my knowledge became outdated knowledge. And
Yeah.
if I bring in people and allow them the uh, the pathway to be independent and do things the right way, it will rapidly take your business down.
Yeah.
That's a very, very important lesson to learn. The other lesson to learn when it comes to regulatory is there's a lot of people out there called consultants.
Uh,
These people who have varying bases of knowledge of varying qualities, but they have one thing in common. They will all shake your hand with their palm up.
yes.
And
Yes.
so do not fall into the trap of spending a lot of money on people who claim to be wonderful at regulatory because that's one of the pathways that you take initially. I need advice. Maybe this person knows more than I do or claims they do. They have the credentials. You let them do the work, and then when they leave, you're left holding the bag
Yeah.
and you're expected to carry that, and you don't realize that they made a lot of mistakes along the way
Ooh.
that they shouldn't have, that you wouldn't have been aware. And so now you're carrying years of abnormal or irregular regulatory documentation that should have been done a different way. And so finding that perfect regulatory person is very hard. Be extremely skeptical.
Yeah. Ask more questions.
Oh yeah, yeah. Find someone you can trust, and
Yes.
then stay with them, and then continue to ask a lot of questions.
Awesome. Cool. Cool. Are there, along that path, are there any roles you're currently working your way out of now?
Yeah, I'd say just about everything at this point. Um,
All of them.
so as we begin to grow, as we begin to, I mean, I can build any unit that we sell here,
Hmm.
but the question is, why would you want to?
Yeah,
And so
right.
you have to give away what you maintain your knowledge and you become a manager. In other words, learn to become a manager because you have the basic skills and background to know when someone's doing a good job. Just
Yes.
get the hell out of their way.
Yes. Yes.
Leave them be, and then do what you're supposed to do. And this is where regulation does teach you some good things. There are
Mhm.
the things called internal audits and
Yes.
reviews. Become the master of the internal audit and the internal reviews. If you
Yes.
and management reviews, you will be wonderful in your role as a manager and always have your thumb on the pulse of your organization. But if you insist upon doing everything within your organization, the patient will die. And so we don't want the patient to die.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's not the objective. Cool, cool, coll. So I want to deviate a little bit here now, flip around to the other side of the equation. Um, I gotta believe you're in you've built a product that's new. So there's a lot of missionary work besides the regulatory side of things. There's a lot of missionary work to get that product accepted because it's a new approach to things. Who who ultimately will be the customer, and how is that missionary process going right now? How are you educating people?
Well, let's define the first thing that you have to understand about what you've created in your marketplace first.
Hmm.
This is again, these are really very recent revelations that pertain to exactly what you're saying, introducing a game-changing, you
Hmm.
know, completely something new that everyone's wanted, but now they don't want it once they realize they have it. I think the thing that you have to look at is, am I selling something that I have to convince something they need? In
Hmm.
which case your process and how you do it's completely different. Or am
Hmm.
I selling something into overwhelming demand,
Hmm.
but a void or a vacuum for the product. And
Hmm.
and it's really different. And it's very
Hmm.
important, I think, because everything from that point, from that decision point, everything you do, your modeling of your business, your financial modeling to attract investors, everything, how you're going to run the business, the money you'll need to run it, everything depends upon that initial recognition point.
Hmm.
So it's going to be a very expensive, hard road if you've brought out something that is very good, but you're going to have to convince somebody it's good, as
Hmm.
opposed to where we are, which is we have a product that people have been literally dying for. And
Hmm.
we're selling into a huge demand where there's a vacuum of products out there. And so it's a different process. You're not going to
Hmm.
have to spend as much money convincing people. You're just going to have to spend your money showing them that it's there,
Hmm.
finally.
Hmm. Hmm. How are you approaching that? What are the things you're finding work?
Well, in the medical field, and as you will always hear someone say, a new device takes 10 to 20 years to become a mainstream device. And that's true if we're talking about, I got something new, nobody appreciates that it's going to be very good, and
Hmm.
therefore I have to sell it. I have to
Hmm.
spend a lot of money on my sales force because you're going to have to give them high commissions because what they're selling is often very expensive. You're competing against other products in the marketplace. Um, but that's not what we have. What we have is something where instead we have to spend our time on just educating people that it's there. So I always say that when I give lectures or talk about this product, I get three reactions and they all occur within 5 minutes. So you can literally set your watch, right? So you give your talk and then put on your timer.
Yeah.
And in the first 2 minutes, you're going to get, this is unbelievable. We've been waiting for this for decades. Thank you. And then 2 minutes in, you're going to get, that information is just too good to be true. Then
Hmm.
the doubt kicks in because they
Hmm.
have something they've been waiting for, but wait a minute, is anything really that good? Are we that
Hmm.
low? And then the third thing that happens usually in the fourth minute is then they turn into attack mode. And this is
Hmm.
very specific to the medical field, is you just attack, 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 attack as a way of kind of almost making sure these people can vet their product,
Hmm.
can defend their product adequately
Hmm.
against the doubts. Because everything in the medical field is all about liability.
Yeah,
Right? If I was selling bubble gum, I don't have to worry about being sued for selling bubble gum,
yeah,
right?
right.
But selling something that affects a person's life or their pocketbook, there are these wonderful people out there called lawyers, and they love to make their money by going after people.
Yeah, yeah. So do you find yourself feeling like you're doing a PhD dissertation every week?
No, no, in the beginning, maybe when you first bring it out,
Hmm.
but once you get it out and once the first publication takes place and once you're starting to see a little bit of traction, now you're instead just having to prove that it works.
Mm.
So, in medicine, it's very easy. How do you prove something works? You have someone try it. So
Hmm.
what you have to build into what you're doing is an automatic trial period.
Hmm.
And depending on what you're trying to sell, with a device where you have a pervasive disease, where it's easy for them to find patients who would be willing to have this tried on them. It's very
Hmm.
benign to start with, but um, you can get a lot of people very, very quickly, four or five patients suddenly, and they'll go, "Oh my God, you're absolutely right. You nailed every one of these." And they will always try and fool you, right? People will bring you things to fool you. They'll say, like, "Well, here's a person I operated on 3 weeks ago, test them." And you come back and say, "Well, I'm sure you're a wonderful surgeon, but there's still disease." And they will challenge you on that. Now, what they won't tell you is that they'll go back a few weeks later, reoperate on the patient, find the disease that you said was there that they said was not, and then you're going to get a phone call, usually from the patient's mother, saying, the doctor went back and found the disease that you said was there. Thank you very much. And you're like, well, why didn't the doctor call
Yeah.
me? And so, no one's going to do you any favors.
Yeah.
But that's how you're going to have to plan for demonstrations to convince people. But once they see it, they get their hands on it, they see how easy it works. Then suddenly all of the barriers drop, and it's how quickly can I get one? And then
Hmm.
really know you've succeeded is you've gone through maybe, for us, I'd say that's now what, a 3 year cycle? A 3 year
Hmm.
cycle where we've done enough demonstrations, have given enough lectures, have posted enough on LinkedIn, where now you're getting phone calls where people are calling in saying, "Hey, when the FDA approves this in the US, can I be the first one to have it?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you got six of those in a row.
So fortunately, you can usually then respond, "I'm happy to make you number one on the list, but there's already 100 in front of you."
That also helps you set a new price, doesn't it?
No, pricing is another entire, it's a new world, right? So
Hmm.
when I was in practice, the standard was capital goods cost a lot of money.
Hmm.
And then the manufacturer would give you an ROI.
Hmm.
Okay, well, if you do so many procedures a week, you'll get
Hmm.
reimbursed X. And
Hmm.
at the end of a certain number of weeks, you will have paid off your capital costs.
Hmm.
And the rest will be profit for your practice.
Hmm.
You're helping people and making a profit for your. It used to be is you paid a lot of money for a capital good.
Yeah.
The company would say, okay, it's going to cost you $25,000 to get started. And you're like, okay, that's a lot of money. And they say, okay, well, if you do X number per week
Yeah.
of these, you will be reimbursed Y. And
Yeah.
at the end of 10 and a half weeks, you will have paid off your medical equipment
Yeah.
if you
Good.
choose to buy it or if you choose to lease it. And then the rest will be profit the rest of the time you own the equipment. And that's very easy to understand. But nowadays, no one has an appetite for capital equipment. The hospitals have restrictions. Anything over five to $7,000 has to go to a capital committee. And that capital committee, they could take a long time to approve your device and
Okay.
approve that expenditure. And what happens along the way is if a more compelling device comes along, let's say to save lives from heart disease or brain tumors, and you've got something that just diagnoses endometriosis, you're at the very bottom of the heap. And so they're going to put their capital expenditures in the most, and I'm not saying that there's anything inappropriate with that. It's entirely appropriate to categorize things based upon most important need, most compelling need. But so the capital model is not working these days. And so what they've done though is they realize that if they instead of say I'll buy this, they'll say I'll rent it. Now suddenly it goes into the operational budget. And the operational budgets are really big and they're not scrutinized as much because it's different. It's operational, and the operational people know how to look at the accountants there know how to look at that and figure
Hmm.
out what to make their money. The other thing is it's evidently the accountants tell me in the corporations that it's very hard to account for capital goods on your balance sheet. It's a mess to have to account for capital goods because what percent do you take each year? And it's that I'm repeating what's been said to me.
Yeah, yeah.
So, not being an accountant myself or a CFO, I will defer to the experts in that field. So what we've done is we've realized that there's no reason to sell things, just cost shift. So as a
Hmm.
business, right, you sell things at a price, you know what your COGS are, your cost of goods. So
Yep,
you want to make a certain profit above your cost of goods. And
yep,
so you price it so you get this nice profit. And then if you have a consumable, you sell the consumable for a lower cost. So kind of like a razor blade model.
right, right, right,
Except that the razor was very expensive and the
right.
razor blades were very cheap. And if you sit and look at that model, you say, well, wait a minute, people shave every day, but
Hmm.
they buy razors every day.
Hmm.
Why not cost shift your profit to the thing that's done every
The
day?
blades, right.
Exactly. So provide in our case, it's easy because we do sell a consumable, but our device is auto diagnostic. In other
Hmm.
words, you just push a button, give someone a glass of water to drink. They sit in a chair for 30 minutes, and you push a button saying you're done, and then you get a report with a diagnosis.
Ah,
Nothing else is required. So we are actually not so much selling a device as we're selling a service.
yeah, right,
In fact,
right,
what it is it's a subscription service. And
right.
so what you do is instead of showing the ROI for buying the capital equipment, you instead go and say, well, you're going to make X, and out of X, we want Y,
Yeah.
and you keep the balance. And
Hmm.
as long as you can show them that they're still going to do very well, then and now you have a subscription model. And then instead of saying, how many do you want to buy? You say, well, we're going to give you a subscription for 40 a month, as an example.
Hmm.
Whether you do 40 a month or not, that's up to you. You should be doing more, but
Hmm.
40 a month is really lowballing it. And so, but we're going to bill you for 40 services a month, and you're going to pay that whether you do it or not.
Mm.
That's your subscription. And most people will go well beyond their subscription because you're giving them a very low subscription number rate, as it were.
Hmm.
So when you cost shift it, now suddenly they're acquiring capital a little bit above cost.
So they're matching their cost against their revenue stream.
That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing for them, and that's how we price it. So we do our investigation in advance. Look at the practice. Is this the practice that could typically do 40 a month? What's 40 a month? That's two a day, 5 days a week, 10 months out of the year. That's very minimal utilization, right?
So
That's
from your financial perspective, you have to be looking at it from I need this much capital to produce this many devices this quickly, and then you're waiting a little bit of time for the revenue stream to come back in to catch up.
right. So it's almost like you're leasing it,
Hmm.
giving them a lease payment, but your lease payment is actually the service.
Hmm.
And so that's how that's how it works. Now, how does that affect everything else you do? Well, if you're in the standard capital model, let's say you're selling an $80,000 piece of equipment,
Hmm.
right? You're going to have a really good sales force and a lot of them, and you're going to
Hmm.
have a very, very high commission because it
Hmm.
takes them a really long time to make a sale.
Hmm.
But when you're in a guaranteed subscription situation,
Hmm.
every practice you set up, we'll go back to that model, right?
Hmm.
Let's say you're charging, we'll give you an example, $200 for every time they use the service.
Hmm.
And then we ask them to do 40 a month as a minimum. That means that that practice will generate $80,000 in revenue to you every year.
So you can get yourself refinanced within a year.
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, it's a very attractive model for everyone. It's what I call a win-win-win,
Hmm.
right? Everyone's winning, and if you have a distributor, they got to have their part too. So everybody wins because they're sharing what would normally take an enormous amount of time to get the money out. Now they're getting it out slowly over time. It's kind of like feeding saltines to a shark. The
Yeah,
shark
yeah.
will It's just not going to grow massively with a gigantic sale.
Okay.
Uh, but it's very effective. It's very affordable, and it's very easy for people to understand. And when it comes to the end of the day, your accountant is not trying to amortize hardware.
Ah,
You're
right.
also services.
Yes. Yes. Good. 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 I'm going to play a little bit with this, not so much on that customer side. Internally, what's been the most memorable of the hurdles you've had to overcome?
Oh, regulatory, without a doubt.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Regulatory, without a doubt. And there isn't a single medical device company out there that will not give you that answer.
That same answer. Yeah.
That is the biggest pain in the ass
Yeah.
for everyone because you're talking about regulations that were written, but nobody's monitoring the regulation.
Hmm.
Right? In other words, you write a regulation, but is it a good regulation? Well,
Yeah.
not really, but it's still a regulation, so you still have to follow it.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest pain in the butt is you've got a lot, and depending on where you're selling, like if you're just selling in the US, right, all your problems are the FDA. If you're selling outside the US, you have CE mark in Canada, and you've got TGA in Australia, and so everybody's got their own little version of this. Now, unfortunately, some of them will follow FDA or CE mark, and if you have one of those, they'll just accept it. Canada has Health Canada.
Cool. Cool.
Everybody's different, so
Everybody's different.
that's the biggest problem. And if you don't solve that, it doesn't matter how good your product is, it doesn't matter how efficient your operation is. If you don't solve regulatory and keep it solved, you're dead in the water.
Yeah. And then if
Now,
they
after
change the
that, go
and if
ahead.
they change the regulations, you got to keep up with it.
And that's why you're going to have a regulatory person. Now, fortunately, we're told that there's this great AI stuff coming in that's going to help do that. Now, I haven't seen it yet, but to have your quality management system. And by the way, here's your clue for everybody in the field in medicine who's looking at medical devices. No matter whether you know about it or not, quickly educate yourself on quality management systems and then figure out how to put one in as inexpensively and as effectively as you can, because these provide you the rules to not have to spend a huge ton of money later implementing a system to even become registered with the FDA or one of these other organizations. Your QMS, quality management system, will drive but it also drives quality internally in your organization.
Hmm.
So this way, everybody's following the rules that you have created for your organization that are documented, that everyone on the outside is looking in. So when they talk about ISO 13485, that's a QMS system. MDSAP, which is a consortium of 5 countries that have the quality management system analyzed by one organization, and they all accept that organization's analysis. Right? That's all QMS based stuff. And so that's really, really, really important. And there are EQMSs coming along. Now, here's your only problem. You have a QMS, which is mostly paper based. And now you're going to put in an EQMS, which is going to make everything really efficient, except the regulators consider the change from a QMS to an EQMS a major change in your regulatory structure, and it's going to put you through hell
Yeah.
just the change, even though the change is better for them too, because when they come in to do inspections, they push a button and there's all the information they need.
Yeah.
But no, they're going to put you through hell to make the change. It's Regulation is a mess.
Kind of like the IRS.
I won't go that far. So now the second thing is we never criticize the government out loud. So the second thing is, if you want to talk about impediments and problems, is going to be supply side stuff.
Uh-huh.
It's very important to get your supply side stuff done, and you are going to stumble no matter how prepared you were.
Yeah.
We've been very proud for 20 odd years saying we got our supply side stuff controlled. It's all US suppliers. We can scale up in a moment's notice, and all of that's true until you find out that one component of one of the supplies that you buy off the shelf is only manufactured in South Korea. and there's a 3 month delay to get that component.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
we're sitting here with a stack of orders that you can't fill, a bunch of very unhappy customers who are dedicated to you and your product. And you have nothing you can do about it unless once you get to that point, you realize, okay, now I'm going to have to keep a certain amount of stock available at all times for these unanticipated bumps in the road until you figure out how often you're going to have to make sure you put your supply orders in to so that South Korea doesn't screw you
Mm-hmm.
because suddenly there's a shortage there too. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is a current one that we've just had to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's no way around it because like what do you do? Well, as soon as you see the supply side issue, you start calling other manufacturers and suppliers and saying, "Hey, can you build this for me instead?" You leave your current supplier, say, "Can you build this for me?" Sure, no problem. How many would you like? And then you tell them how many you want, and they come back and say, "Well, we have that same supply side problem with South Korea." So it's not, you think, well, it's just the people you're working with. No, it's everybody
Yeah.
that has those. And so it's
Yeah.
important to try and identify those in advance
Yeah.
so
Right.
you can, be ready for that.
Yeah. Yes. Very good. Very good. Very good. What's the future look like? Where are you going? 5 years, 10 years? What do you see?
Well, for our particular product, we're just at the very beginning, and we know what the demand is
Mm-hmm.
coming up. So we're blessed by selling into a vacuum of enormous demand,
Mm-hmm.
right? The vacuum is the product. The demand is just ridiculous. To give you an idea, right? I spent 3 days of advertising on the local NPR station, right? Public
Mm-hmm.
radio. And we were going to do pop-up clinics for this new
Mm-hmm.
device that we were just bringing out. We are going to do 40 procedures at each one of those pop-up clinics on a weekend. So
Mm-hmm.
on Saturday, 20 per day per machine, right? Or 10 per machine per day. So it's 20 each day, 40 for the weekend. And then we stopped advertising. And then on the seventh day, we stopped taking phone calls because we filled 10 months worth of slots in 7 days. That's how you know your demand is there.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're like, okay, let's just concentrate on the most important things: regulatory, supply side. Do we have the right people working here? We have wonderful staff,
Mm-hmm.
and that's another thing. I know we're in America, right? And America is not known for giving a lot of vacation time
Mm-hmm.
to employees, but I like to take a blended European view with an American view. So the Europeans, you get 6 to 8 weeks a year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why you can't get anything done in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
You. I think that the most important thing you can do is invest in your employees. And
Mm-hmm.
that means 3 weeks minimum per
Mm-hmm.
vacation, up to 4 after a year or two of service.
Mm-hmm.
And then you make sure they take it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank it, but
Mm-hmm.
they take it because you want them rested, you want them happy, right? You don't want anybody stressed out because they got to put their dog down and now what are they going to do? They don't have any vacation time or PTO time. So you really do want to be very good to your employees and educate the hell out of them and make sure they do a good job for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. 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 Where do you see yourself personally in about 5 to 10 years? Where are you going? You're going to stay with it?
I have an awful lot of inventions that go beyond what I've currently commercialized.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get out there.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about things that really in the same field of
Mm-hmm.
endometriosis that save lives and save livelihoods. And so this particular, what we're doing now, it's going to be a certain pathway. I anticipate at year 3, probably bought out by somebody, one of these big giant companies
Mm-hmm.
uh, in the female services area. Um, Probably more likely 3 rather than 5
Mm-hmm.
uh, because the numbers are crazy good because
Mm-hmm.
of what we sell and the services we provide. And then but then along the way you meet all of the people who will then be the ones who will then fund
Mm-hmm.
next adventure because they've seen how well you've done with your one invention. Now they want to say, okay, this one's complementary. Great.
Now there's a track record. Yeah.
Yeah, let's fund that one. And you got another one. Okay, let's fund that one. So,
Hmm.
with regard to endometriosis, this is a diagnostic, right? But then how do you then get into prevention? And so I
Hmm.
have patents on ideas on how we can actually prevent the disease from occurring
Got it.
that are natural. We have then something else, another patent coming on a drug that could actually eliminate the disease.
Okay.
So, you got to stage these out.
Yes.
Otherwise, the answer to where you see yourself in 4 or 5 years is in a box 6 feet underground.
Yeah. Right. Of boredom.
Oh, no, of
Yeah. Well,
overwork.
that side of it too. Yeah. Yeah. Too many things going on at once. Cool. Cool. Very good. That question was, if you started your business again today, is there something you would do differently?
And so the answer is yes, yes, and yes. Um, let's take the first one. As you're starting this business, you've got a product, you've got a great product, it's going to be successful. You have the belief inside of you, right? What does that mean? It means I'm founding a company and I'm going to do whatever the hell it takes
Yep.
to make sure it's successful, which means you're investing your time, you're investing your family's time,
Mm-hmm.
your close associates' time, and you're
Mm-hmm.
investing your money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Don't ever begin a business with anyone who is not able to and willing to make those same sacrifices to the
Yeah.
same degree.
Good.
And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that gets made is that people that can help, they're willing to help,
Yeah.
that advice will be very helpful, but if they're not willing to put skin in the game,
Mm.
then it's only going to come back and bite you in the behind. So you
Mm-hmm.
really have to be very careful and thoughtful. And part of that is like, right, so you're talking about founders. What is a founder? Investigate what a founder is. Investigate the characteristics of a founder, the
Mm-hmm.
requirements for a founder, because you'll soon find yourself perhaps with founders that are not as vested
Mm-hmm.
in time, not invested in terms of finance. Generally speaking, if people put skin in the game, if they got money in it, they're going to work hard at it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that's your first thing. The next is get to know your marketplace.
Yeah. Good.
But not only get to know your marketplace, you have to know who your competitors are. Now, it was easy for us because there were no competitors. We were going to be the first in
Yeah.
at this level. But when I say define your marketplace, every market has different levels of sophistication
Mm-hmm.
of entry. And so I'll tell you specific to ours, right? In the field of diagnostics, there are diagnostic device levels, there are tiers. So a tier one device is a simple device, easy to use, rapidly deployed, low cost, and highly accurate. That's a tier one. That's like, how do I know that there's something wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
And then tier two, tier three, tier four, those are tests that are more like, those are localizing diagnostics. So I
Uh-huh.
give you an example, right? You're feeling tired. You go to see your doctor. The doctor looks in your eyes and he says, oh, you look a little pale. Why don't we do a blood test to see if you have anemia? And so he does something called a complete blood count, and he probably will check an iron level at the same time. And then that's going to come back. Well, that's a tier one diagnostic. I do or I don't have anemia. Well, what's a tier two diagnostic? Well, your iron level was a little low. The next test is let's go find out where the blood's going, right? So is it going in the stool? Is it going in the urine? Is it that your bone marrow is not producing it? That would be a tier three test, but the first two would be tier two, right? So you look in your field and see where is the tier one level stuff, and is there any, and are you that test? And once you can isolate that, this is all about not only understanding your place in the world, but also understanding how other people view things. The first 2 years we came out, we were still selling into a void, right? Into a vacuum. People needed these tests, but the water is muddy because there's surgery to make a diagnosis. There's other
Yeah.
blood tests. There's menstrual fluid tests. There's all sorts of stuff being developed and that has failed in the past, but none of it was at a tier one level. And when you realize that what you have is a tier one diagnostic, when you use that terminology, the doubt, the resistance in the brain of the physician suddenly goes, it's gone. I know what
Hmm.
a tier one diagnostic is. You've got one. We don't have one of those. Okay, that's easy to understand. Otherwise, you end up being compared to other stuff that may have come before you that was at a
Hmm.
tier level. So you
Hmm.
need to distinguish your product among what you're coming into the marketplace. And again, you have to study the marketplace.
Yes.
People view the competitors. The other thing is there can be a lot of muddied waters.
Mm.
So for us in particular, there were blood tests that came out, multiple different blood tests. They were the best thing, right, since butter toast, and it was going to save the world and make great diagnoses. And it ends up they weren't very good.
Mm.
So now the water is muddied because all your support groups who are all excited, now they don't believe anything because
Hmm.
they
Right.
disappointed. The doctors, they don't believe anything because they were disappointed too many times. So
Yeah.
figure out where the muddied waters are and
Hmm.
figure out how you're going to clear those waters so
Yes.
that you get the aha as opposed to the, oh God, not another one of these. And another problem is be aware of other failures in allied fields that may negatively impact your decision,
Yes.
your right. So in the field of medical diagnostics in particular, we recently had a horrible thing take place, and there are someone serving jail times for that. Right. We're talking about Elizabeth Holmes
Yes. Right.
and that diagnostic device, which destroyed the marketplace for diagnostic devices because now everybody, if it looks really good and it's too good to be true, which is what they say we are, they're like, oh God, you're another Elizabeth Holmes. You're selling,
Yeah.
and that gets in the way. So that's another impediment. You got to be aware of them and you got to be out of the box with those things. And that's the same thing with, remember I said, there's the, what are the three things you're always going to hear first? Wow, we've been waiting for this. No, that's too good to be true. Lead with the negative statement. So when I give a lecture, I said, look, here's my first slide, right? We're talking about this new biomarker to diagnose endometriosis. We're going to call it the too good to be true test. Put it right out there. Okay, so
Hmm.
everybody's nodding. Yeah, okay,
Hmm.
great. And then convince them.
Hmm.
After. So you've taken away their negativity
Right.
because you put it out there.
Put
And
it
now
on
you're
the table first.
you
Yeah.
put it on the table first. Never be afraid to put that type of stuff on the table first. They always say don't do that, but the reality is everybody's thinking it. You might as well, what is it? You address the 600-pound gorilla in the room first.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I actually think that's the right thing to do strategically. I think in any sales situation is first of all, find out if we're the right people to be talking to. Are we in the right, are we in the right conference, so to
Mhm.
speak?
So
Um,
it took me 2 years to figure that one out. And
hmm.
it took 3 years to figure out the first tier diagnostic part. And I got to
Yeah.
tell you, it was like turning on the light in a dark room.
I'll bet. Yeah.
All of a
Yeah.
sudden, you define the field and where you are in the field. Now there's no resistance anymore.
Yeah.
And they
Cool.
call you by name.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So let's head towards wrapping up.
Okay.
Yeah, because this has been really, really helpful. This has been really good stuff. So we're going to ask a few rapid fire questions here. So this is kind of off the cuff. What's the key to success for you?
Yeah. Success for me is that no person in this world, anywhere in this world, born female, will ever wait more than 30 minutes to know they have a diagnosis of endometriosis or not. That's success. It's about the people you're trying to help. It's not about the money you're going to make, right? You're born naked and penniless, right? You die naked and penniless. The good things you do in between periods of being naked and penniless, that's what counts.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. The money is a byproduct for all practical.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good. Good. If you walked out to the coffee shop right after this call and you met somebody who was just about ready to start his business, what's one piece of advice you would give them? If you went out the door to a coffee shop right after this call and you met somebody who is just getting ready to start their business, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
I would say immediately go out and find people who were in the same situation as you, but at various points along the way. Someone who is just starting, someone who's a year out, someone who's 5 years out.
Mm-hmm.
Get as much insight, especially
Mm-hmm.
into your own field,
Mm-hmm.
as to where your impediments are. Who are the good banks you should bank with? It can be
Ah,
a
good. Yeah.
right? I mean, all of those, depending on your suppliers, what suppliers have you used? What regulatory consultants have you used that you're happy with and would pay again?
Yeah.
Those are the questions you want to start accumulating, but especially talk to the ones that just got started, and ask them that question. What would you do different if you could change one thing in how you started your business? Get like so many opinions and then make sure you don't make those mistakes.
Yeah. Good. 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 I like that. What's one book you're reading now or have read recently that's had impact on how you run your business?
I don't think I could give you a name of a book that's had any particular impact
Mm-hmm.
in how I run my business.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's see. First, I'm terrible at remembering names and titles, so you put me on a spot. Um, let's come back to that one.
Okay. All right. All right. So you've had an awesome journey. You've done a lot of things. You've created a lot of ideas and a lot of products and things that help people. What are you most proud of?
Now that I remembered the name of the book, let's go back to your original question about what book has made a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I would say The Peter Principle.
Ooh, good one.
In
Yeah.
terms of business, I would
Mm-hmm.
definitely say absolutely the Peter Principle. You need to understand that, and then you need to be very diligent for not only yourself, but those around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very relevant. Good, good. That gets into an awful lot of decision making points.
Oh, yeah, it does. It
Yeah,
does.
it does. And I'll go back to the question, what are you most proud of?
I'm proud of what we've created and
Mm,
the team that we've created
mm-hmm.
with all the missteps. There is nothing like being surrounded by people who believe in what you're doing, believe in the product,
Mm-hmm.
even though they know they could make more money elsewhere,
Mm-hmm.
temporarily perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
but that still believe and still fight every day and still hear the things and see the things that you don't.
Mm. Okay, good. Following up on the flip side, if you had a magic wand that you could wave and fix something this afternoon in your business, improve it, what would it be?
I would say, going back to my original discussion about do the research before you decide who you're going to found the business with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That would be the only thing
Mm-hmm.
that I would look at. Well, maybe
Mm-hmm.
the only other thing would be know your limitations,
Oh,
right?
there's another good one, right?
Getting back to the Peter principle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Know when the field outgrows you
Yeah,
so that you can bring in someone who is not outgrown by the field.
good, 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 good. All right, most important question. How can people who want to know more get in contact with you?
I'm LinkedIn. I'm always happy to email. I'm always happy to help others. Time is restricted more and
Mm-hmm.
more and more. I mean, how do you know your business is getting bigger and bigger and bigger? You go from 2 or 3 emails a day to over 100.
Yeah, right.
Like that's how you know, and that's a good thing and that's a bad thing. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to help people with my insights. So yeah, things like that, or maybe we'll organize more discussions like this and cover other topics in depth between the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
However you want.
Cool, cool. One last question. What's most inspiring to you today?
the emotion and the faces of the people that you help.
Ah, yes, yes.
Period. Okay, I'll finish it up with a story. As we as we went to, I'll tell you two stories. The first one I call Wendy's story. When I was 12 years old, so imagine you're 12 years old, you are an adolescent. You are lucky to know who you are and what your emotions are. And you notice that one of your classmates is in distress. And you go to that classmate and you say, Wendy, what's wrong? And that young woman turns to you and literally, with tears rolling down her face and pain in that face, falls into your arms. This is an acquaintance. This is not a girlfriend. Falls into your arms sobbing because she is in so much pain every month. Every month. The doctors don't know what it is. They say I'm going to be have to deal with this. Maybe it'll get better when I get pregnant. I can't live another 10 years with this. I don't know what I'm going to do. This is horrible. What do you say? And so what I said at the time was, I know I'm going to be a doctor one day. I'm going to figure something out to help you with this. And look where we are today.
Yes.
So that's Wendy's story. The other one is we're demonstrating this around the world. Here we are in Denmark, and they bring in a 19-year-old woman along with her mother, father, brother, sister, three psychiatrists,
Mm,
uh, three gynecologists, and a bunch of nurses, hospital administrators, right? So they're previewing this test for the first time in all of Denmark, which by the way is very favorable towards women's illnesses.
hmm.
And so here's the story. Since age 13, she began having painful periods, taken 911 8 to 10 times a year to the hospital, multiple tests every single time, no diagnosis ever made. No one knows what to do. She's 19, beside herself. When she was 16, they decided that she was causing this pain mentally herself and started to make her see psychiatrists. When she was 17, the family became enraged over the way she was being treated. And guess what they did? They made the family start seeing psychiatrists because they were obviously empowering her to feel pain that didn't exist.
Yeah.
So here you are, you're doing this test. You know how good your test is. You know you're at virtually 100%
Mm,
diagnostics. The test is done in less than 30 minutes. You look at the result and you say, holy crap, how are we going to handle this? So I turned to the young woman and I said, look, I've got good news and I've got bad news for you. She said, well, what's the bad news? I said, the bad news is you have endometriosis. And that's been the cause for your pain all these years. And she said, what's the good news? I said, the good news is you're going to fire those three psychiatrists who don't deserve to exist on this world anymore, and your gynecologist and everybody else who didn't doubt you. And that's the good news, is that
huh,
you're not crazy. You have a disease. And there were 21 people in that room. Not one of them could speak through their tears. That is your reward.
mm. Awesome. Fantastic. That's a that had to have been a very dramatic moment.
Every place you go, they're repeated time and time and time again. And that's what keeps you going.
Interesting, interesting, interesting. That's a good story. That's a fantastic story. Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. This is great conversation, and I really enjoyed this story. This was very, very good. So thank you so much for sharing that. For the audience that's watching, um, the, Mark has shared an awful lot of great insights well, certainly into his product area, but very much into business as well. And I recommend you go back, save the show, watch it again. Um, some of those insights were just very, very valuable. So don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so that you can get notifications every time a new conversation drops. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. And a special thank you to Mark for sharing his stories. This has been really
My
good.
pleasure. My pleasure. Always happy to help.